Hello, Zenith women, and welcome to the channel. The strongest souls attract the most broken people. But here's the problem. Some of those broken people aren't looking to heal. They're looking to feed. It's no coincidence that Sigma females, the women who stand alone, unshaken and unbothered, become prime targets for narcissists. Studies show that narcissists are magnetically drawn to people with strong boundaries and high self-worth, not because they admire them, but because they need to break them. To a narcissist, a Sigma female isn't just another person. She's a challenge, a prize, a fortress they must conquer. And yet, Sigma females don't fall for the usual tricks. They don't chase validation, they don't worship status, and they sure as hell don't play the damsel in distress. So why do narcissists keep coming back? Why do they fixate, obsess, and refuse to let go? The answer is darker and far more fascinating than you think. Buckle up, because this isn't your typical narcissist love empaths nonsense. This is the real reason why Sigma females are a narcissist's worst nightmare and their most irresistible addiction. Number 1. They're selective, and narcissists want to be the one who gets chosen. Sigma females don't hand out their attention like freebies at a mall. They're selective to the point that most people assume they're just cold or uninterested. But the truth is, they've mastered the art of knowing who's worth their energy and who isn't. This is exactly why narcissists can't resist them. A narcissist thrives on being the center of attention. They expect people to gravitate toward them, admire them, and feed their never-ending need for validation. When a Sigma female walks in and doesn't even blink in their direction, it's like a slap to their ego. To a narcissist, being ignored isn't just annoying, it's unbearable. It makes them question their own power. They start thinking, why isn't she looking at me? Why doesn't she care? That tiny crack in their confidence is enough to make them obsessed. Now they have to be the exception. They must be the one who breaks through her indifference and gets her to care. But here's the problem. Sigma females don't fall for shallow charm or empty words. A narcissist can throw all their best tactics at her. Flattery, grand gestures, even a little fake vulnerability, and she'll just raise an eyebrow and keep moving. This makes the narcissist double down. They don't just want her attention anymore, they need it. And when they finally get a little, it's never enough. Unlike most people who might fawn over them or crave their approval, a Sigma female doesn't make them feel like a god. She's not impressed. And even worse, she's unpredictable. One day she acknowledges them, the next she's completely detached. Narcissists can't stand that. They thrive on control, but with her they have none. What makes it even worse for the narcissist is that deep down they know she sees through them. She might not say it, but she knows when they're being fake, when they're fishing for attention, when they're trying to manipulate. And that silent awareness, it's deadly. It makes them feel exposed in a way they don't know how to handle. But instead of walking away, they become addicted to proving her wrong, to making her see them as powerful, worthy, and special. They don't realize she already sees them for exactly what they are, and that's why she'll never truly let them in. Number 2, they have an escape plan ready before the narcissist even realizes it. A Sigma female doesn't wait for the fire to spread before grabbing the extinguisher. She smells the smoke before anyone else even realizes something's burning. When a narcissist thinks they've finally got her under control, she's already identified every weak spot in their act and calculated the cleanest way out. She's not the type to engage in messy, drawn-out battles or give endless explanations. She knows that trying to reason with a narcissist is like arguing with a malfunctioning GPS. It will keep rerouting the conversation in circles until you're exhausted. So instead of wasting energy, she does what she does best, vanishes. A narcissist thrives on the illusion of control, believing they are the puppet master in every relationship. But a Sigma female isn't a puppet, she's the one holding the scissors. While the narcissist is still basking in their imagined power, she's already mentally checked out, planning her exit with surgical precision. She doesn't do emotional breakdowns or long farewell speeches. She won't leave behind a dramatic trail of texts or engage in last-minute mind games. No, she simply fades out, removing her presence so smoothly that by the time the narcissist notices, it's already too late. This disappearance isn't about revenge or playing hard to get. It's about efficiency. Sigma females don't see the point in unnecessary conflict, especially when dealing with someone who thrives on drama. She refuses to feed their ego with a screaming match or give them the satisfaction of seeing her suffer. Instead, she leaves them with the worst punishment possible: silence. Narcissists expect a chase, a reaction, a sign that they still matter. When they receive none of that, they spiral. They can't understand how she slipped through their fingers so effortlessly, how she managed to detach without a single emotional outburst. And that's exactly why a Sigma female is their biggest regret. She's the one who got away. Not because she was too weak to handle them, but because she was too strong to waste her time. The narcissist is left replaying everything, wondering how they lost control, obsessing over the one person who refused to be manipulated. Meanwhile, the Sigma female, she's already moved on, living her life untouched and unbothered. Number 3, they make narcissists feel exposed just by existing. A Sigma female doesn't have to expose a narcissist. They do it to themselves just by being around her. She doesn't fall for their charm, doesn't react to their manipulations, and doesn't give them the validation they crave. She sees through the mask, and worse, she doesn't even have to say it out loud. That silent awareness is unbearable for a narcissist because it forces them to feel something they spend their entire lives running from: insignificance. Narcissists thrive on creating illusions. They surround themselves with people who believe in their carefully crafted persona, who feed their ego and reinforce their false sense of superiority. But a Sigma female? She disrupts that entire system without even trying. She doesn't fawn over them, doesn't play into their games, and doesn't fall for their fake vulnerability. And that is terrifying to a narcissist because it makes them question whether anyone actually buys into their act. She becomes the mirror they never wanted to look into, the one that reflects all their insecurities, their lies, their deep fear of not being enough. What makes this even more frustrating for the narcissist is that they should hate her for it, but instead they become obsessed. They can't stand how unaffected she is, how she moves through life without needing external validation, how she's everything they pretend to be, but can never actually achieve. So instead of running, they keep coming back, desperate to rewrite the story. If they can just get her to admire them, to validate them, to need them, then maybe they can erase the truth she makes them feel. But no matter what they do, the feeling never goes away. The more they try to control her, the more powerless they feel. And that's what drives them crazy. A narcissist is used to manipulating people into seeing them as larger than life, but a Sigma female sees them exactly as they are: small, insecure, desperate for approval. And she doesn't even have to lift a finger to make them feel that way. Her existence alone shatters their illusion, and the worst part, there's absolutely nothing they can do about it. Number 4, their independence feeds the narcissist's ego challenge. To a narcissist, control is everything. They don't just want admiration, they want ownership. So when they meet a Sigma female, someone who operates entirely on her own terms, doesn't seek approval, and doesn't rely on anyone, they see a challenge that their ego simply must conquer. She isn't impressed by wealth, status, or smooth talk. She's indifferent, and that indifference makes her irresistible. In their minds, if they can make her fall, if they can be the one person she bends for, it proves their superiority. But what narcissists don't realize is that a Sigma female's independence isn't just a surface trait, it's who she is at her core. She doesn't play hard to get. She genuinely is hard to get. She's not withholding affection as some kind of game. She simply doesn't give it to people who haven't earned it. And this drives a narcissist insane. They're used to people who respond to their tactics, who crave their validation, who can be manipulated through fear, flattery, or fake affection. But a Sigma female doesn't need any of that. She's built a life that doesn't require external reinforcement. This means the narcissist has to work harder than ever before. They pull out every trick in the book: exaggerated charm, fabricated sob stories, grand gestures to make her need them. But no matter what they do, she remains the same: detached, observant, and completely unwilling to compromise her sense of self. And here's where it gets even worse for them. The more they fail, the more obsessed they become. In their mind, there's no greater proof of their dominance than breaking down a truly independent woman. If they can get her to depend on them, if they can get her to change for them, then they've won the ultimate game. But Sigma females don't play by anyone's rules, especially not those set by someone who thrives on control. The narcissist thinks they're pulling her into their web, but in reality they're just tangling themselves in their own delusions. By the time they realize they've lost, she's already moved on, untouched, unimpressed, and still as independent as ever. Number 5. They don't flatter easily, which makes narcissists work harder. Narcissists are used to effortless admiration. Most people feed them compliments without even thinking, whether out of politeness, intimidation, or just falling for the act. But a Sigma female, she doesn't play along. She sees no reason to hand out praise unless it's earned, and narcissists hate that. They expect applause simply for existing, yet with her, they get nothing but an unreadable expression and a raised eyebrow. It's maddening. This is where the obsession starts. Narcissists thrive on validation, and when they don't get it, they scramble to earn it. Not because they want to be better people, but because they need to prove their superiority. In their mind, if they can make her admire them, if they can be the one person she acknowledges, then they must be truly exceptional. So they start trying harder, showing off, exaggerating their achievements, dropping hints about their supposed brilliance. They go into overdrive, convinced that if they just say the right thing, do the right thing, or become the right thing, she'll finally give them the recognition they crave. But here's the problem. Sigma females aren't impressed by effort laced with desperation. They don't admire people who demand admiration. And the harder a narcissist tries, the more ridiculous they start to look. They think they're being charismatic, but she sees through the act. She notices the cracks, the insecurity behind the arrogance, the neediness behind the confidence. And the worst part? She's still not flattered. If anything, she finds their constant fishing for approval exhausting. At this point, the narcissist is too deep in the game to walk away. They've invested too much effort, too much pride to admit defeat, so they double down. They become fixated, obsessed with the idea of winning her over, completely unaware that the only person being played is them. While they're caught in a self-made trap of trying to impress her, she's already lost interest, having seen them for exactly what they are, a fragile ego in desperate need of an audience. Number 6. Their emotional resilience creates an addictive challenge. Narcissists feed off emotional reactions. They push buttons, twist words, and create chaos just to watch people crack under the pressure. But when they try this with a Sigma female, they hit an unmovable wall. She doesn't flinch at their mind games, doesn't crumble under their manipulation, and doesn't give them the emotional high they desperately crave. This isn't just frustrating, it's infuriating. They're used to people bending, breaking, or at the very least reacting. But a Sigma female, she absorbs the chaos and gives nothing back. This resilience makes her an irresistible challenge. In the narcissist's mind, everyone has a weak spot, a vulnerability that can be exploited. So when a Sigma female doesn't immediately give them that satisfaction, they assume they just haven't hit the right nerve yet. They start trying harder, escalating their tactics, pushing more boundaries, testing new ways to throw her off balance. But all they get in return is calm detachment, and that drives them insane. It's not just her strength that gets under their skin, it's the way she makes them feel weak. Narcissists need to believe they're in control, but with her, they constantly feel like they're the ones being studied, analyzed, and outmaneuvered. She doesn't argue, she observes. She doesn't engage. She lets them reveal themselves. Every time they think they've rattled her, she responds with the same level-headed composure, making their efforts look pathetic. This creates an addictive cycle. The narcissist tells themselves they must be able to break her. They need to see her react. It becomes an obsession, a battle they refuse to lose. But they don't realize they're the only one fighting. She's not playing the game, she's just watching them self-destruct. And by the time they realize she was never going to crack, they're already in too deep, frustrated, exhausted, and hopelessly obsessed with the one person who refused to fall into their trap. Number 7, they project a quiet power that narcissists want to steal. Narcissists thrive on attention, performance, and the illusion of power. They dominate conversations, exaggerate their importance, and make noise just to feel significant. But then they meet a Sigma female, someone who exudes power without ever raising her voice, someone who commands presence without even trying. She doesn't beg to be noticed, yet people gravitate toward her. She doesn't seek validation, yet her confidence is undeniable. And that is something a narcissist desperately wants but can never achieve. They don't understand how she does it, but they know they need it. In their mind, if they can just get close enough, manipulate her and control her, they can absorb that power for themselves. They believe that if they can break her independence, if they can get her to admire them, then some of that silent strength will transfer over. It's a twisted form of possession. They don't just want to be with her, they want to own whatever makes her so untouchable. But what they fail to realize is that her power isn't something that can be stolen. It's something she built through years of self-sufficiency, introspection, and complete detachment from external approval. It's not in her words, her looks, or even her intelligence. It's in her complete lack of need for validation. And that is something a narcissist can never replicate, no matter how hard they try. So they resort to their usual tactics: manipulation, gaslighting, love bombing, desperate to shake her foundation, but none of it works. She remains unfazed, watching their antics with the kind of quiet amusement that only makes them more obsessed. The more they fail to crack her, the more they spiral, convinced that this time they'll find the right method to unravel her. But they never do. Because while a narcissist's power is built on illusion, hers is built on truth. And truth is something they have no idea how to handle. So in the end, they're left exactly where they started, confused, insecure, and completely powerless, still chasing something they will never ever be able to own. Number 8, they're not impressed by status, which drives narcissists crazy. Narcissists rely on status as their main currency. They flash wealth, name-drop influential people, or exaggerate their achievements, expecting others to be impressed. Most people take the bait, either out of admiration or intimidation, but a Sigma female, she couldn't care less. She doesn't view status as a measure of worth, and that alone makes a narcissist's head spin. They expect her to be in awe, to fawn over their success, to give them the validation they believe they deserve, but instead she gives them nothing. No wide-eyed admiration, no ego-boosting compliments, just a neutral expression and a mental note that they're trying way too hard. This indifference is unbearable for a narcissist. They've built their entire persona around the idea that status equals power, but here she is, treating them like just another person. They can't stand it. This triggers a desperate need to prove themselves. They start flexing harder, exaggerating more, throwing around grand gestures in a frantic attempt to make her see them as special. But all she sees is insecurity masked as arrogance. And here's the kicker. Her lack of interest makes them more obsessed, not less. They tell themselves that if she finally acknowledges their greatness, then they must truly be exceptional. It becomes an unhealthy fixation, a game they refuse to lose. But the harder they try, the more ridiculous they look. She's not playing hard to get. She's genuinely unimpressed. She values depth, authenticity, and intelligence, not someone waving a bank statement in her face, and by the time they realize she was never going to worship them like everyone else, they've already lost control. They're the ones hooked, desperately trying to earn the approval of the one person who was never seeking theirs in the first place. Number 9, they refuse to worship narcissists, which feels like a personal attack. Narcissists live for worship. They don't just want admiration, they expect it like it's their birthright. Most people play along, either out of politeness or because they've been manipulated into believing the narcissist is as special as they claim to be. But a Sigma female, she doesn't hand out admiration like candy. She only respects what's genuinely impressive, and narcissists rarely make the cut. This isn't just a bruise to their ego, it's a deep, festering wound. To a narcissist, a lack of admiration feels like outright disrespect. In their mind, everyone should be impressed by them. So when a Sigma female remains completely unfazed, it sends them into a spiral. They don't just feel ignored, they feel insulted. How dare she not recognize their superiority? How dare she not acknowledge their brilliance? It becomes a personal mission to make her see their worth. And this is where the obsession starts. The narcissist can't just walk away and find someone easier to manipulate. They need to win her over. They start trying every trick in the book: flattery, grand gestures, guilt-tripping, even subtle manipulation. Anything to crack her composure and force a reaction. But nothing works. She sees through the performance and remains indifferent, which only makes them double down. What they don't realize is that their desperation is exactly why she won't respect them. Sigma females admire confidence, not arrogance, strength, not theatrics. The more a narcissist scrambles for her approval, the less she sees them as someone worth admiring. And by the time they realize they'll never get the worship they crave, it's too late. They're already trapped in their own obsession, chasing something they will never, ever receive. Number 10. They have an untouchable aura that narcissists want to own. Narcissists thrive on possession. To them, relationships aren't about connection. They're about ownership. They don't just want admiration, they want control. And then they meet a Sigma female, someone who is completely untethered, someone who answers to no one, someone who walks through life like she owns it but has no interest in proving anything to anyone. She is an enigma, a force that moves entirely on her own terms. And that infuriates a narcissist. They don't just want her, they want to contain her. They see her independence as something that needs to be tamed, her untouchable nature as something that must be conquered. To a narcissist, the idea that someone like her could exist without seeking validation, without craving approval, without needing anyone, is both a mystery and a threat. If she doesn't need them, how can they matter? If they can't control her, what power do they really have? This is where the obsession begins. The narcissist convinces themselves that they must be the one to make her theirs. They throw charm, manipulation, and mind games at her, trying to find the weak spot that will pull her into their orbit. But every time they think they've got her, she slips right through their fingers. She doesn't fall for the flattery, doesn't react to the mind games, doesn't engage in their emotional warfare. She sees the attempt and simply moves on, unbothered, unaffected, untouchable. And that's the breaking point for a narcissist. When they finally realize that no matter what they do, they will never own her, never control her, never make her seek their approval, it shatters them. They've spent their whole life believing that power comes from making people bend to their will. But a Sigma female, she doesn't bend. She doesn't belong to anyone. And that truth is something a narcissist will never be able to accept, no matter how much it destroys them. Number 11. They can't be love-bombed, which makes narcissists try harder. Narcissists rely on love-bombing as their ultimate weapon. They flood their target with excessive praise, grand gestures, and non-stop attention, creating an intoxicating high that makes most people fall fast and hard. It's a calculated move designed to make their victim dependent on the validation before they slowly start to withdraw it, leaving them desperate and hooked. But when a narcissist tries this with a Sigma female, it's like trying to set fire to stone, completely ineffective. She doesn't fall for over-the-top compliments. She doesn't get swept away by whirlwind romance or grand declarations of love. If anything, she finds it suspicious. Love-bombing isn't impressive to her, it's transparent. The moment someone lays it on too thick, her internal alarms go off, and instead of melting, she takes a step back and watches. She doesn't absorb the flattery, she analyzes it. Who is this person, really? Why are they trying so hard? What do they want? But instead of cutting their losses and moving on, the narcissist doubles down. They can't accept that their usual tactics aren't working. So they crank up the intensity, showering her with even more attention, more gifts, more grand gestures, convinced that this time she'll fall. They start seeing it as a challenge, a battle of wills. If they can just break her emotional resistance, they'll win. But what they don't realize is that there is no battle. She's not playing hard to get. She's not getting got, period. The more they push, the less she engages. The harder they try, the more obvious their desperation becomes. And that is the real nightmare for a narcissist, being exposed as try-hard, fake, and painfully insecure. In their mind, they're supposed to be irresistible. Yet here's this woman who sees right through the act and remains completely unmoved. By the time they realize their manipulation has failed, they're already too deep in their obsession. They've invested too much effort, burned too much energy, and still have nothing to show for it. And that's when the panic sets in, because a Sigma female isn't just immune to their tricks. She's watching them fail in real time, and nothing is more humiliating to a narcissist than knowing they tried everything and still weren't enough. A Sigma female is every narcissist's worst nightmare, not because she fights them, but because she doesn't engage, and that's a battle they can never win. She doesn't fall for their charm, she doesn't entertain their mind games. And she sure as hell doesn't waste time trying to fix what was never her problem to begin with. While others get caught in their web, she walks right past it, unmoved, uninterested, and completely untouchable. And that's the cruel irony. The more a narcissist tries to break her, the more obsessed they become. They don't understand why their usual tricks don't work, why she remains unaffected, why she sees right through them and still refuses to care. She holds up a mirror they can't escape, exposing their deepest fear, that without manipulation, without control, without someone to feed their ego, they are nothing. But here's the final brutal truth. The Sigma female never belonged to them in the first place. She was never theirs to manipulate, to possess, or to control. And when she finally leaves, without drama, without closure, without a single backward glance, the narcissist is left alone with the one thing they spent their entire life running from, themselves. If you enjoyed this and want more content that cuts through the noise with brutal honesty, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button if this resonated with you and drop a comment below. Have you ever dealt with a narcissist? How did you handle it? Let's talk. And don't forget to share this with someone who needs to hear it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.